Hi, I'm Carly from The Garden Spot, and my goal is to get you outside in your garden. Whether you're new to the gardening scene or are a seasoned gardener, let's get planting. Come along with me today as we head to the nursery to do a little gardening 101. There's some things I plant from seed, some things I plant from a little start from the nursery. Tomatoes is one that I typically plant from a start from the nursery, and the reason I do this is because if you're growing tomatoes from seed yourself, you have to start so much earlier in the season. We're talking like you're planting indoors in like February, so you just have to be ahead of the game. So if you're not quite there, starts are a great way to go from the nursery. A lot of my cool weather crops, like right here we've got spinach, Swiss chard, we've got peas, lettuces, kale, stuff like that is super easy to grow from seed. And a lot of times it does better being planted directly into your garden instead of transplanted into your garden. So that's a great one to plant directly into your garden from seed. Okay, so when you're planting your spring crops from seed, so I'm talking kale, lettuce, radish, peas, onion, beets, turnips, carrots, things like that. When I buy these from seed, I am starting these directly in my soil outside sometime around the middle of March. When I am planting from seed for my summer crops, so beans, melons, corn, cucumbers, things like that I'm going to sow directly into the soil outside, I'm going to start doing that around Mother's Day weekend for the northern Wasatch Front. I love this brand right here. It's Mountain Valley Seed. It's a good local Utah company. A great radish variety is a Cherry Belle. I also love the French breakfast radish. I love for a lettuce, there's lots of different kinds of lettuce, but one that does really well here in our soil is a gourmet like loose leaf lettuce. This is my favorite gardening glove. So while you're at the nursery getting your stuff, be sure and pick up your new fresh pair of gardening gloves. Regardless if you have a garden in pots, in raised beds, or in the ground, there are 3 ingredients to a good garden. Number 1 is soil. Soil is so important. We want rich, organic matter mixed into our soils so that our plants can have the most nutrients. Have loose soil for like if you're growing underground plants like beets, carrots, turnips, things like that. And then that also can retain moisture. The second thing is light. So we need a garden that has at least 6 hours of sun a day, preferably more. So when you're choosing a location in your yard, think about your sun. The last thing is water. And water is, we want to water deeply and less frequently so that those roots learn to grow down and that they can withstand the hot summers. So when we're picking out garden soil, you can come to a nursery and you can buy in bulk. It makes it super simple. This one's like a garden mix. They've already done all the math for you. They've mixed the soil, they've mixed the compost, they've mixed everything that you need for a good garden soil. This can be bought by the yard, so you can bring a truck in and you can fill up your garden. You can, if you have an in-ground garden, you could till this into your garden. If you have a raised bed, you could just put this right into your raised bed. If you have a pot garden, I would probably use a soilless mix, like a potting soil, to grow in pots, just so it's really light for those smaller pots. But if you don't need quite like a couple of yards of dirt, you can also buy, a lot of nurseries will carry bags of the same type of thing that you can add into your gardens. Then a great additive to add to your garden when you're planting is just a good all-purpose organic food. So when I talk all-purpose, I'm talking your numbers, and this stands for your nitrogen, phosphate, and potassium. And when they're all the same, it means it's like a well-rounded, everything's the same, so it's going to be good for multiple types of crops. Right, the next most important thing you can do for your garden is mulch. I'm talking like 2 to 3 inches over the top of your soil, and this is going to help keep weed seed down. It's going to help choke weeds down and help your plants grow bigger. And if your plants grow bigger, they're going to shade the ground and those weeds can't grow. It's also going to help retain moisture so that your soil doesn't dry out as quickly. You can mulch with grass clippings, straw, newspaper, anything that's going to cover your soil. The thing that I love to use is a soil pep type. The best thing about like using an organic type mulch, so not like a black plastic or some kind of a landscape fabric, which you can totally use, but if you use an organic mulch, then you can work that into your soil, and it just helps amend your soil even more and gives you a better soil. Okay, so now we're home and we've got our plants. Now what do we do with them? we need to plant them properly so that they grow and flourish. So if you've got something like this that comes in a little cell pack, I like to just squeeze my pack like this and kind of loosen the roots up. And you don't ever pull from the stem and pull up because you could damage your plant and pull it away from the roots. So just gently work it out. If you pull your plant out and it looks like this, you are going to want to break up those roots a little bit. See how they're circling around? We want those roots to grow out. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this and gently break up those roots to say, hey, you're not in a pot anymore, you're going to grow out. Now the next thing is to not plant too deeply. There's always an exception to the rule, and tomatoes and peppers fall underneath that. But your other plants, we don't want to plant too deeply. So if you see here, you've got your plant, it's coming out of the ground, and you've got the soil level. When you take your plant home and replant it, you do not want to plant deeper than what that soil level already is. So we're going to go ahead and dig a hole. We don't need a very deep hole for a little plant, as you can see. We'll set it in the hole, and then we're just going to push that soil right to where it was at the nursery so that we're not planting too deep. And there's always an exception to a gardening rule, and a tomato is going to be one of those. We are going to plant a tomato deeper than it comes in its pot. So same thing, we're going to squeeze our pot and work the roots out. This one, you can see it's not too root bound. I still will kind of just tease the base of that root. And then I'm going to take, if you see down here, there's these two sets of leaves that come off either side of my branch. I'm just going to go in and I'm going to do what's called pinching that off. I simply take my finger and pinch it off. Because I'm actually going to go up one more stem. Because with tomatoes, you plant tomatoes deep. So you can see these fur, almost hair-like looking things. When these get underneath the ground, they are going to turn into roots. So this is going to help support our plant. It's going to make it be stronger and be able to withstand all the fruit that it has to hold throughout the summer. There's a couple different ways you can plant deep. If you have a really big tomato that's a lot larger than this one, you can do like a trench planting, where I'd come along, I would dig a trench, I would actually lay my tomato in the ground and then bend the top up and then bury. But because this tomato is not that big yet, I've just removed those bottom leaves, and then I will dig a hole a lot deeper than I did for a plant that if I'm just wanting to plant right to soil level, because I want this one to be deep. I want the soil to go up around that stem. All right, so I've dug a hole, and I'm going to place it down inside, and then I'm going to bury, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 inches of my stem underground. Thanks for coming along today. I hope that gives you a place to start. The number one thing I want you to remember is to just get started. It's the journey of gardening where you learn the most and where you find that it can be really fun to get out and dig in the dirt. So if you'd like to find more of me, I am over at The Garden Spot, and you can come follow along and learn all things garden.